Quality sleep is essential. That's why the Sleep Number Smart Bed is designed for your ever-evolving sleep needs. Need a bed that's firmer or softer on either side? Helps you sleep at a comfortable temperature? Sleep Number Smart Beds let you individualize your comfort so you sleep better together. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number number 1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our lowest prices of the season, shop the Sleep Number Smart Bed starting at $999 for a limited time. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Hello and welcome to this. It is the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby. It doesn't take itself, or indeed the game, too seriously. I'm JB, here with Phil. Hello Phil, how are you?
Hello JB, I feel like I've already seen enough of you this weekend.
Oh my god, I've seen enough of everyone forever.
Where have we been, JB?
We've been to North Dorset 7s, and it's been a hard old shift. A tough old paper round. I think I'm done with rugby. Genuinely, I feel so awful after Friday nights at escapades.
Friday night was just the vets as well.
Well, you say only vets, right? But I do quite a lot of sprinting.
Yes, you did.
I do a lot of sprinting. I did 100 minutes of 10s rugby, which is no mean feat.
Yeah, that is very true.
Oh, God. And actually, the worse the teams get, the more sprinting you do. Unless they're very good, like Godfathers are, in which case you do a lot of sprinting back towards your own line.
Yeah.
And they were very good.
They were a good team. They were a very good team. And you can tell that we had some very good players, some of whom have played together before, most of whom have never even seen each other before.
Yeah.
You could tell they played together frequently.
Yeah, you definitely could.
Yeah.
They were bloody decent.
But it was a good weekend. It was a good weekend. Friday night playing for both of us. Friday night drinking until 1, 2 in the morning. And then Saturday up and
No
at it.
playing.
No playing for either of us.
No.
Saturday. Which I was never planning on playing this. I was always going to play the vets only because of injury, risk of injury. And I think I've got away okay with it.
You had a wrist injury, didn't you?
Yeah, my wrist is pretty swollen, but
My legs are swollen.
it's nothing major. Your legs are swollen. I mean, you have been looking massive recently.
My legs are really swollen. Oh, right, okay. So we'll get back onto North Dorset 7s in just one moment. You can find us on... Where can you find us? You can't really find us on Twitter now, so don't bother with that. You can find me on LinkedIn or at Beardmore Go Independent Financial Advisors. You can find Tim, who is AWOL. He's just gone missing. Do you think, finally, his indulgent trip has caught up with him?
I'm not quite sure, because he sent a very, very smug photo. When we were just about to start our court session yesterday after the rugby, and just about to watch Ireland-South Africa, he sent a very, very smug photo, pitch side.
Yeah, the only evidence of Tim being alive is the fact that he's still posting excellent YouTube content.
Yes.
So maybe go and check him out on EggChasers YouTube channel.
Definitely do that.
Yeah.
Definitely do that.
So he was at the game on Saturday.
He was in Pretoria, the Ireland-South Africa game, the big one, or one of the big ones, because there's a few big games this weekend, but that may be the biggest.
Well, they've all been big games, right? But I think one of the overriding themes of this weekend is Southern Hemisphere dominance, with the exception of Argentina, who you wouldn't really class as... Well, they are in the Southern Hemisphere, but do you class them as like... They're not the Sanzar nations, are they, basically?
Well, they are now, I guess, because of the Rugby Championship.
Yeah, I guess they are.
Yeah, but they're not the traditional big three powerhouses.
No.
So the traditional big three, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all won. All won. Australia was the only one by more than a score.
Yeah.
South Africa was 1 try, 7 points. England, New Zealand, one single point.
Yeah. All wins, fragile wins, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe the most comfortable was South Africa. Although Ireland had a few opportunities that they blew to get more points on the board, and they'll be kicking themselves at the probably 2 James Lowe errors that led to the Colby try, where he tapped it back in, and then the final penalty try where he just didn't receive a kickoff.
Well, we're going to talk. I think we should wait for Tim, maybe tomorrow or something, to talk about more of the South Africa stuff, because with him being there, he'll have additional insights.
He definitely will.
But just on broader themes, Ireland, we were sort of talking about this in our camper van. I think now that they're kind of a busted flush. The all of international rugby is based upon potential, isn't it? It's like, how good could this team be? Right? Same with the players as well. That's why a lot of international teams are willing to let their older players go, because they know exactly how good that player is. But the new exciting thing, well, he's got potential to be a great player. And I think that's what international teams are, is an exciting potential. This Ireland team, I think, have been as good as they'll ever be. And I think it's almost like chasing the dragon now. They're never going to reach the heights that they once were just before the World Cup. Furthermore, what would be the point? Because the whole thing was built up towards the World Cup. They failed on that. So they're just never going to be back to what they were.
I kind of disagree with the premise. Now, I agree with one thing, which is they got, what was it? 20 at one point they were on something like 26 wins in 27 tests, something like that. I'm not quite sure they'll hit that high, but they have to. At some point, Ireland are going to beat their record of never getting past a quarter-final. So there must be an upward movement at some point. And on the potential thing, yes, age. We've spoken recently about Faye Waboso and Cunningham South, 2 phenomenally talented individuals, very young but super high potential, and who are really, really performing. If you look at talent versus potential on, say, the Springboks team,
yes,
that Springboks team is one of the oldest teams I've ever seen. It is so old across the board, but they are still performing phenomenally well. Like Villy LaRue is still sensational. Deolandi and Creel, they're getting on. Faf, Peter Steph Totoy, Khalees. Like when Vermaelen stopped, you kind of think, oh, it's time for one of the young lads like Roos or what's his name, the number 8, Hanekom. For Bulls. It's time for one, or even Visa. It's time for one of those young guys to step up. No, they just moved Quagga Smith up to 8.
Of course.
Because he's over 30 and he's got the experience and he can do it.
But I think there's a couple of things going on here as well. That team being older, they do value experience, no two ways about it. But they have so much phenomenal talent beneath it. And I think that talent is just sort of driving those older boys forward. Whereas Ireland, there is nothing behind it. I mean, there's talk of promising players, but who is the next guy that's really going to excite you? And then we looked at their bench that came off, the players that came off the bench for Ireland, and rather than them getting, better with age, they seem to be on the downward slope.
I think there's a few positions where you can say that, like bringing Cian Healy, who's a magnificent player,
great servant to the game, all that.
Yeah. He won everything in the game, apart from the World Cup, obviously.
Apart from the quarter-final.
Yeah. But it's the same problem as England. He's what is he, 36, 37? He will be holding on, and bringing him with Kelleher and Finlay Bealham off the bench, and then getting absolutely marmalised for that. It wasn't even the final try, actually, but the match-winning try, the penalty try, that feels like it's a downward trajectory. But there's other people, so like Osborne, who's come in to 15, nice player.
I do like Osborne. I like him at 12, though.
Yeah, but a talented player, can play across the board. Someone like Kieran Frawley is a talented player. Ryan Baird is hyper-talented. Joe McCarthy, young lad who's come in, from almost nowhere, and even in the last 6 months, this season just looks fantastic. So they've not got the depths that.
At South Africa, you're looking at like another 15.
Oh yeah,
another 2 15s.
You're probably looking at another 2 15s. But it's interesting to see that South Africa, despite that wealth of talent, are still trusting so many of the more experienced boys
at this cycle of a World Cup as well.
Yeah, so far out, and that's South Africa have got the problem where some of these guys will be like, what's Villy LaRue, 34, 35?
Well, yeah,
he'll be pushing 40 by the next World Cup.
Well, the knock on the England World Cup team, the 2002 or 1, whenever they won it, right?
2003, yeah.
2003. Okay, so 2 completely wrong years.
But close.
Close. Closing in on it, right? The knock on them was that because they dominated for so long, that group of players, the next group of players didn't get the requisite amount of experience. And when it all turned over, they had nobody.
Yeah.
And they were taking boys to the next World Cup who were not really integral to the first one, but were sort of the same age brackets. You're thinking Simon Shaw, you're thinking Martin Corrie, you're thinking those sort of
Lewis Moody.
Lewis Moody, yeah. So, that could be a problem with Springboks. I just don't think it is, actually. I think they'll start to bring newer players in sooner rather than later.
Well, I'm very interested to see, because I would have thought that this cycle now would have been the time to really start blooding those players. And they've not. They've just gone for pretty much all the trusted guys that won the last World Cup, which is fine. They say that's their best team, and I probably
don't doubt it.
Yeah, I believe it is. They've beaten Ireland, who less than 12 months ago were the number 1 ranked team in the world, still a phenomenal team, and they've beaten them fairly comfortably. If not now, when, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think Ireland have had their best ever game, and that was beating South Africa in the World Cup. And I honestly think on that day, nobody in the world could have beaten them. And then ever since then, that was the best they've ever been, and they knew they'd never get to those heights ever again.
I'd say that, because I think had a couple of things gone on slightly differently towards the end of that game, Springboks should have won on the day in the World Cup. I think their best performance, probably the best single performance, was beating France in France. I think it was about 15 months ago.
Yes, 40s. It was a big score.
And they tight in the first half, and they played them off the park in the second half.
Yeah,
and it's not. France was a very, very serious team. They still are. They're still a phenomenal team, as Argentina found out playing France's nearly third team and getting hammered.
Well, just on that France team, one of rugby's great mysteries was solved. And also one of the biggest bargaining chips in rugby has now been removed from the table. Who will Antoine Frisk play for?
Yes. Yeah, which, considering he played in a position that England could certainly do with a big strong boy playing in, and looked handy, scoring a try on debut, and he's qualified for England and Ireland. So for those two teams, you probably don't have the depth in that position to not pick him up.
But he's really made the most of his multiple nationalities to get the
Bristol, Munster.
Well, we got to remember he wasn't even in top 14. He was in Pro de Deux. Carcassonne, maybe.
Yeah,
not Carcassonne. He was at not Dax. It'll come back to me in a minute. Rhone. That's what it was.
He was a few places. Massy, Stade Francais, Tarbes, Massy, Rouen,
then Bristol.
Normandy, then Bristol, then Munster, then Toulon.
Munster, then Bristol.
Yeah.
Munster, then Bristol again?
No. Bristol, Munster, Toulon.
Is he at Toulon now?
Yes.
I did not know that. I thought he was still at Munster.
Yeah. I think as of this summer. Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the French thirds did all right.
Yeah. And this is... So, I've seen the highlights of this game, but just looking at the team sheet, I kind of ignored it a little bit because it's the Argentina, basically the full-strength team.
Full-fat Argentina, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, with Matera and Kremer and the two props, Bello and Gallo, and Montoya, and Santiago Carreras, and Matteo Carreras, Geronimo de la Fuente, Mateus Maroni, Batista Delgay. It's the whole team. It's a full-fat Argentina team against a load of French players that I've never even heard of.
Yeah, there are quite a few lads. There's a couple of lads from Pau in there. There's, there's lads that I never thought would play for France again.
Yeah.
Like Baptiste Sarien.
Jordan Joseph, I thought, mega talented, but never quite done it. But
I've never even heard... Who's the winger from La Rochelle? Oscar Georgiou? Jegou? I can't even say his name.
I don't even know.
I've never even seen him for La Rochelle. And here he is. Here he is.
Don't know. They had one of their wingers who scored a try was very, very young, like as in under 20s young.
Theo Attison thing or other.
Yeah.
Is his name. But I don't know.
Assis Ogbe.
But apparently he is phenomenally talented. He's only 19.
Yes. So, very interesting. And
another one from Pau.
The pack. I mean, there's one or two names that I recognise. Genuinely, one or two names that I recognise. So, fair play France, I guess.
I just don't... I mean, these international teams we see now, they are basically clubs, a club outside of a club.
Mm-hmm.
It's not off. They're not representative teams, like scratch representative teams that you pull together, like, say, back in the day. And I just wonder, what is the point in France sending out this team? Because half of those guys are never going to play. They're just not.
Well, I think it's partly the demands of the top 14 means that you've got to rest. And like at the end of a World Cup cycle, so a lot of those players have gone World Cup, top 14, Six Nations, top 14 and Europe to make them play in this cycle, then in a tour, summer tour. They've probably decided, give them a rest. So
just don't play the game.
Well,
that would be my other. I just don't do it.
But then they what Galtier seems to be using it for is to just get some of those younger lads in and say.
But Baptiste Sarien is never ever playing for France again.
How many of these? Well, no scrum half is again.
Well, Lukaku is going to have a good career on the bench.
Yeah,
he's going to be the number 2 forever.
Well, but he's like 32.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's old. Lukaku is old. It's the young Racing guy. Legaric, he's the guy who will be the long-term understudy. So maybe Baptiste Sarien is a bit of an odd one, but he probably is the, I don't know, 4th best. He would be, if you had a third team for France, he would be the third team 9. But a load of the other boys are get them in, let Galtier have a look at them, decide if they're test match animals, and then if they are, they might get They might make a wider training squad for the Six Nations and get a shot on the bench if 2 players get injured. But everyone else, you may never see them again.
Yeah. So, a signing which came across my radar a few weeks ago, and we might have spoke about it then, but I thought I'd bring it up now because I've had to think about what I want my ideal scenario to be. Do you know Stuart Lancaster signed his son for Racing?
Has he?
Did we not mention this?
I think we might have mentioned this back up.
Dan Lancaster, maybe?
Yeah.
Now, Dan Lancaster, if that is indeed his name, was not quite good enough for Ealing. So he's at Ealing, and now he's at Racing. I mean, this is obviously the product of great scouting, isn't it? They've obviously gone through every name they could possibly think of. And just by coincidence, Dan Lancaster was the profile of player who Racing needed at that time. It's just a wonderful coincidence, I think. But now he's there. Do you know what I would love?
Go on.
Obviously, Khaleesi getting fat and taking 700k a year. But then, Farrell shifting to 12.
To allow Dan Lancaster to play.
To give Dan Lancaster a place in the team. And then this everlasting conversation of how do we get the best out of Farrell at 12? Is he a 12? Is he a 10? Where's he best? And just watching Racing plummet. It's a perfect mix of wrong spending and nepotism.
Yeah.
And, of course, leadership. I mean, how can they not win with so many leaders on the field and off?
Well, I blame it all on the winger, the former London Irish winger. What's he called? Refuses to chase any kicks.
Henry
Arundel, thank you. Blame it all on him.
Yeah. So Dan Lancaster starting 10 for Racing, that would be
dynamite. I do have to say, Khaleesi, for the talk from...
He didn't look overweight.
He didn't look overweight.
Which is a shame.
He played very well as well. His carry into Henshaw was massive. He's not always credited as being the biggest carrier.
No, he's not.
He was mobile around the park, and his assist for it was the first try, wasn't it? Lovely hands out on the wing or in the wide channel for Aranza. So he had a great game. So Lorenzetti, maybe. Although, has he done anything for Racing 92?
Yeah,
No.
well, as Lorenzetti's pointed out, and I did back on this, he had a Rolls Royce of a player in Wenceslas Lorre.
Yeah.
So, now, let's just go back to North Dorset Sevens, because I've got a gripe.
Go on.
What does it say about rugby? That we're at a Sevens tournament, and what do you reckon there was there? A couple of thousand people?
I would guess at 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Were there at the Sevens.
So it's 2,000 people. Presumably most of them are rugby fans. Would you agree with that?
They're in the wrong place if they're not.
Yeah, and even though you got 2,000 people, you would assume desperate to consume rugby, there was no way for us to watch the internationals.
I found that genuinely incredible.
I found it disturbing. I mean, maybe it's an oversight by the organisers, but if you cannot justify a business case, right, to buy Sky Sports in that kind of environment for that kind of location, where can it be justified? And what is the future of the international game? So me and Mark Evans sat down last Tuesday, and you can hear our conversation on economics. Pretty much, it should be in your feed now, actually. And we're talking about, one of the things we spoke about is why Sevens struggles, and it's because it's not a good TV format. Mm-hmm. What does it say about the future of the game if no one watches internationals now on TV because they can't justify putting it on in a rugby club with 2,000 people?
Yeah.
Who all want to watch rugby. But they can do it, but football, fine.
Well, the football, the quarterfinals on the Friday and the Saturday were all watched, were all well attended. The England game, you couldn't get anywhere near the clubhouse. It was absolutely heaving. Everybody wanted to watch the England game.
They did.
And that was kicked off when the second half of Ireland South Africa was going on, which we were watching. And there was also Sevens on the pitches.
Yeah.
No one was watching the Sevens, everyone was watching.
I get one further. If South Africa Ireland was on the TV, I reckon they would have turned it off.
Probably. They probably would have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a bad sign when that your demographic is a demographic.
Yeah, and these are such...
rugby.
I mean, in our world, these are such massive matches. I mean, in terms of the quality of rugby on display this weekend, these were enormous games. I mean, you don't get to see a better weekend of matches. It just doesn't exist. Yeah. But you look through the press. I mean, the Times had maybe 2 articles, one of them slagging off Marcus Smith. I don't think it got much coverage on the BBC website. Just nothing really. Certainly no mainstream chatter.
Yeah, slightly worrying. Slightly disappointing. Which game do you want to go to next? We've not touched on
England or Wales.
Wales. We've not touched on Samoa. Who
I'm not gonna lie to you, Phil. I didn't watch the Samoa game.
I've also not watched the Samoa game, but they beat a very handy Italy side. Mm-hmm. A pretty much full strength Italy side as far as I could tell. Yeah, they were beaten by Samoa. Georgia were beaten by Fiji. Canada were taken apart by a second string Scotland team.
Containing which players?
There was a brace of braces for the Sale boys.
A brace of braces, wow.
Yeah, so Aaron Reid and Gus Waugh both got
good lads.
2 tries each.
Yep.
So fair play to those boys.
Internationals now.
Yes, yeah. But it certainly wasn't a first choice Scotland team, not even close. But a few Premiership representatives in there as well. So like Bayliss was in there, Miller Mills, Rory Sutherland. Where's he playing now? He's short time Premiership player for Worcester. Gus Waugh and Aaron Reid.
And Roebuck's linked with a move to Scotland too. Has he been capped yet?
He was capped against Japan.
Yeah,
he's in New Zealand now.
Oh, there you go. So he won't be going to Scotland.
Not for another 3 years at least.
At least
3 years from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. maybe touch on Wales, because there's not a tremendous amount to say about them.
There's one thing to say.
Go on.
They are 0-7 now. 7 games in 2024. 7 losses.
That's impressive. I mean,
good start.
I actually don't think it's as bad as people are making out.
I tend to agree, but I think we need a bit more time to see, because we don't really know where this Australia team is.
No.
We know they've got some nice talent, but they've not really played together. It's kind of this was the first game post Eddie Jones, post World Cup, so we don't know where they're going to be longer term. But they beat them. It was, would I say comfortable? No, Wales did all right. Wales did do all right, but you felt like they were always kind of chasing the game. They were never. I don't think they were ever in the lead.
No, and their scrum got smashed too.
Yeah, scrum got smashed. They got themselves a penalty try, which was pointed out by Russ Petty on Twitter. Penalty try is the Welsh top scorer in 2024. They got 3 penalty tries this year, more than any individual player.
Oh God, it's bad, isn't it? So I think they were going to turn the corner at some point. They just have to. You can't be this bad for that long. And actually, they're not even that bad. So when you watch them play, I've said this numerous times, they do play hard. So the difficult part of getting the boys up for it, Warren Gatland's got that in spades.
Yeah, he can do that. And they've got some nice pieces. They've got some plenty of talent, like Wainwright, like Rafael, like Jenkins and Chris Tashunza are good players.
Yeah, exactly. So they've got some pieces to build around.
Yeah.
Halfbacks is a problem.
I thought Ben Thomas was all right.
I thought Ben Thomas was fine.
Yeah,
but I just kind of think that if he was really going to be the next big thing for Wales, I would know about him. He's 25 now.
It would have happened. Something would have happened at any point in the last 6-7 years.
Just to know his name would be nice.
Yeah.
But it has to start working soon. You can't be this bad for that long. And also, a lot of these guys play together. The whole point of them being in Wales is they have some cohesion of knowing each other. That has to kick in at some point. At some point. On the other hand, they lost to Australia team that have beaten 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers.
Yeah.
And do you think Australia are looking for like the magic bullets to fix all of rugby union? And the new magic bullet is Joe Smith. I can't for the life of me imagine why he would have gone to Australia. It's such an enormous challenge. I think it's fundamentally broken. And he was very comfortable being the Messiah of Ireland and on the selectors panel for New Zealand. In fact, did he not retire from rugby for exactly that reason? Now he's taking on this enormous job with Australia.
Yeah, I'm sure it pays better than being a selector for New Zealand.
But when you retired, you meant to be retired.
Did he actually?
I'm sure he did retire. I'm sure he's...
I'm not. I can't remember if he might have done. He might have done.
Well, if he didn't retire, he could have pretty much any job in the world that he wanted. When he left Ireland, like you're telling me that there's not a top 14 team, he couldn't be in Stuart Lancaster's shoes now. So I think a lot of these international coaches are not interested in the club game anyway, because it's too hard for them.
Probably,
I think the club game is actually much harder than the international game, and you go there with your sparkling reputation, and then it is basically trashed because
it's
club
really
coaches are amazing. The club game is amazing. It's you can't pick any players you want. I mean, Gatland going to Waikato is a great example.
Yep.
I think Lancaster in Racing will probably be another example soon enough.
Yeah, and you've got constraints on your talent, more constraints, either top 14 or Premiership where you've got a salary cap, or like Waikato, you just kind of get the players who are coming through the region.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of talent coming through, but you don't really get to pick it. It's just these are the boys that are next cabs off the rank. Yeah, it is, and it's certainly more difficult, say, doing a season in the top 14 where you play 26 games plus then playoffs if you're lucky enough to, plus then Europe. It is it's a year-round job.
Tell you what, this is why Xhaka deserves some credit, because he is willing to take a club job.
Yes.
In a bloody hard league. I mean,
very hard league.
If you want to win the Premiership, you have to be I'd say you have to be the best coach.
Yeah.
You have to have the best ideas, the best system. You can't be second best, because the salary cap is tight, the competition is ferocious, and you can't keep your best players for very long.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you want to, that to me, it feels like Xhaka will, could potentially, it could potentially struggle to get back into the international game. That said, Gatland didn't really struggle.
No, but
slightly different.
Yeah, he had such strong links with Wales. It's the Gatland situation is an odd one. There's not that many coaches in World Rugby right now that you can imagine. Who have been head coach of a nation, you can imagine going back to that nation.
No, I can't.
I can't think of another one.
So I can think of loads of club coaches I'd like to see have a crack at international.
Yeah.
Who is the international coach that you'd want in charge of your club? I don't think there's not many for me.
Nenab is a very interesting one.
But he's basically gone just to a different international team. I don't say that, that's not even a joke. It kind of is.
It is a little bit. They only play half the year. I can kind of see that. But he's one. I find him very, very interesting. Borthwick, I've got a huge amount of time for. Obviously, he's done international in a less senior role, club, or club in a less senior role, international in a less senior role, club head coach, international head coach.
The hard way.
Yeah. Andy Farrell, I'd love to see. I don't think he'd do it.
I don't think he'd do it.
Because I think it would be too much hard work.
Yeah, because once you're in the international game, you can have the odd bad year, you can lose a few games, and no one really notices. But in a league, people notice.
Yeah.
People really, really notice. Yeah, so I wouldn't have Andy Farrell. I wouldn't have Eddie Jones nowhere near my club. I think the guy is a disaster for club rugby. I don't think I don't know about Gatland. Probably not. I don't
Razzie,
no.
I wouldn't.
It's just it'd be such a clown show.
Yeah, we've seen it. Scott Robinson, obviously, he's one game into his international coaching experience. Although his club coach, he only did 4 or 5 years, something like that.
And won 4 or 5 titles.
He won everything.
And then as soon as he left,
it completely fell apart.
Yeah.
I would like to see him anywhere, somewhere interesting. And then
I won't have Schmidt either. I just think they're just not cut out for the club game. Simple as that. I think you get so far, and then you get to international, and you don't want to know anything else about it.
Maybe.
Yeah. So Wales, they're just not. I mean, what I say about the Ospreys, they kind of are the right kind of size and weight. But then you look at them and the shapes are all wrong. And I kind of feel a little bit the same about Wales. They just don't really have the raw talent yet. Or maybe the raw talent is just a bit young.
Yeah. I think if we just take the second row as a great example, I think those two are seriously good players. They are mega, mega talented.
Do you think Chizunda's that good?
I do. I think he's got talk about potential. Enormous potential.
I think that's
big,
exactly
he's strong,
right.
he's athletic.
He has potential, but he's not as far along as you would hope. And I think that's for both Wales and Chiefs.
Yeah.
So I've not seen much of this year for Chiefs.
He was injured quite a bit the 23-24 season. So, but yeah, mega, mega potential. But the kind of player that you'd be wanting him in 2-3 years' time to be
I can see Jenkins becoming an absolute colossus.
Yeah, same.
Like a legit world-class Lion type player.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, other than that,
there was there was no nice tries from Wales. There was one penalty try. The Australia, the Dalgunu was nice. The Tom Wright try was superb.
Well, was it not a bad defence?
Little bit. Tompkins, and then he accelerates, and then was it Mason Grady coming across, and he kind of steps one way, steps the other. Mason Grady just slides on his knees because he's already beaten.
That
was lovely.
I like Tom. I just forgot his name. Tom Wright.
Tom Wright.
Yeah, Tom Wright a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
So do I.
Great player.
Did he score? There was when we were in Malaga 18 months ago. We were watching. It was Australia versus France late on the Saturday night, and either he scored or set up an amazing try. Lovely running. Yeah,
Australia, France. Where were we?
We're in an Irish pub, so we'd watch.
Oh, we were.
We'd watch Spain. We were chatting to the boys who played for Seville Rugby Club.
We were.
Yeah.
How that was Ireland? Wasn't that Ireland, France? No, you're right. It is Australia.
It was Australia, France. Yeah. Australia, France, 2022. Yeah, I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's a nice player, and they've got some talent. Got some obvious talent. Australia. It's just, can they get it right? Can they get it together? Can they get cohesion? Can they get the players to stay in Australia? Get the experience?
I'm not going to the NRL.
Yeah. Yes, not get poached like Marky Mark and Carter Gordon and others. Can they do some poaching themselves? Have they got enough money to poach some good talent? That's kind of what they need.
We're Northern.
We are.
Did you encounter the Northerner?
I was trying to remember. I don't think I had a go on the Northerner.
So, we'll talk about this now before we get into England. So the Northerner. Oh, okay. So the story started because there's a guy called Jaffers, and Jaffers used to play for Aylesbury. Right. So we first met this guy. Where was it? In the tour of Romania.
Yes,
they all came out to
yeah,
Romania.
They did. Good lads.
And so the Northerner is effectively it's a drinking funnel, but it's made by a heating engineer.
Yep.
So the top of it is like a very, very sturdy metal jug.
Yep.
Then it's connected
like a tankard.
But it's more like a big milk jug you use for like frothing
milk for a new coffee machine.
Yeah, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
On a pint scale. It's got measurements.
Yeah, it must be 2 pints.
Yeah, the Northerner does take 2 pints. And then the rest of it is copper piping.
Yes.
And then various valves, so the liquid goes straight into one's mouth.
Yes.
And also, it's got like a, not a duct, but so it flows quicker. There's additional piping.
Yeah,
Which you put
that's to bring air in.
That's right.
I think to a lot. Yeah. Yes.
So this heating engineer,
beautiful bit of kit.
It's a great piece of kit. So I was saying, like, you need to make more of these. And they said, no, we refuse to make any. Although, if there was a right offer, they would take applications. So they've refused so far. But if you want a Northerner, you have to write in an application to this heating engineer who will look at a handful of applications and either reject you or take you on. It's a bit like winning a Victoria Cross. They're really, really hard to get. Really hard.
Well, but there is one in the world currently.
Yeah. But I thought, and I think it'd be cool if every one of them was made slightly differently.
Yes. Then
you get this core of Northerner enthusiasts who travel the country doing different Northerners and they know the nuances of each one. And I also think they should be given out in terms of, like Michelin stars. It's just published in the book.
Yeah.
So there's like the Northerner Guide, which is published every single year,
once a year.
Yeah, it's a very bland kind of nondescript book, which is published once a year, and you read it. There's no internet site. It's just a little book, and it tells you where the latest Northerners have been released at a rate of say 3 a year or 2 a year.
Perfect,
one a year,
yeah.
One every 5 years.
It was a lovely bit of kit.
Yeah, and why is it called the Northerner?
You did tell me this yesterday. Is it just because it's hard?
It's fucking hard. So I texted our dear friend who was chairman, I don't know if he still is, of Aylesbury, and he said there was nothing scarier than being on tour in Portugal and having a knock on your door at 7 a.m, knowing it's the Northerner. A man with the Northerner.
We did a little game years and years ago on Rugby Tour, Morning Mayhem.
I love Morning Mayhem. It's my favourite tour game.
Yeah, where you wake someone up with 2 cans.
No. Yeah, if someone wakes you up with 2 cans, you have to drink the 2 cans immediately.
You've got like 4 minutes to do the 2 cans. If you fail, it's then 4 pints by like 9 a.m. And if you fail that, it's like 4 pints and 4
Morning
shots
AM.
by midday.
Well, yeah, so the idea is you just got to get up as early as possible.
Yeah,
Stand guard.
Yeah.
Or lock your doors. Or don't go to sleep in your own... I mean, who goes to sleep in their own room anyway? It's ridiculous. You're asking for trouble.
Oh, dear. Right, England.
Oh, don't want to talk about the court session first?
We can talk about the court session. Yeah.
We'll do it afterwards. We'll do it afterwards.
I mean, what goes on in court stays in court.
Well, I don't remember most of the court session because I was tied to a post. I wasn't there for the majority of it.
That was quite good fun.
Okay, England, go. Talk to me about England, Phil.
England. So, this probably plays out kind of what... So, a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I think both Tim and I said we would be happy if it was a loss by not too many points with some positive signs. And I think this definitely ticks that box. However, when you look back at that game, you think, God, England should have done better in that last 20, 30 minutes.
I agree.
They should have, and for a couple of reasons. One, they had 4 attacking lineouts inside New Zealand's half in the last 20 minutes. Fluffed all of them. Like, did nothing with any of them. And once again, towards the end of the game, the scrum really
collapsed.
Really struggled. Really struggled. So with those 2 big concerns, there's some massive positives. After the first couple of tries, the 2 tries, the South Africa tries, I thought England's defence was really good. They really kind of forced New Zealand and shut them down, stop them playing, push them more into the kicking battle, which suited England. And some of the interplay between Marcus Smith, Slade, Furbank, who I thought was ace all game, was really good. So there's definite positives. Defence overall positive. Some of the interplay overall positive. Scrum overall negative. Line out, bit of a mixed bag. Although England managed to disrupt the New Zealand line out very well. I thought Itoje was ace in that.
Yeah.
So it's all a mixed bag. The bit I guess that other bit I'll get a little bit not frustrated at, but England left 8 points out there from kicking from the tee. New Zealand left 7 points out there through kicking from the tee or not kicking from the tee in the Davian McKenzie letting the shot clock expire situation. But it's probably the way that the rooks towards the end of the game, which I thought the Georgian referee, Nika, was good overall, but I thought England allowed... One was Scott Barrett, it's the side of the maul, actually, where he just kind of flopped round the side and stole the ball and somehow got away with it, and one would be in the final ruck, where England would probably... They know they've got to attack because they've got to get any points, and they're just under-resourced. They just didn't get enough men to the bloody breakdown. So, yeah, overall positive, but some frustrating moments.
One of the things which has kind of surprised me is England almost have accidentally found their back row. After years and years of whinging about, how do you replace Billy, or, what's the best back row, or what does it look like? I think the back row they've got now, with a guy who, I would say 18 months ago, was on nobody's radar to start, looks like an absolute nailed-on starter for a long time in Cunningham South.
Yes.
And Earl, it just works. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
With the... you've got Tom Curry. You've got a brace of Currys in the wider squad, but you've got Tom Curry on the bench.
Yeah.
Who, he's hardly played any rugby. He only came back. Was it the semi-final
It was.
Came back for? So he's hardly got any rugby under his belt. But if he gets back to anything like his best, he's got to be pushing to be starting.
Well, you'd say at his very, very best, he's captaincy material.
Yeah.
He's right up there.
And Lions, he was a starter, wasn't he?
Yeah, so I just think, having him on the bench is it's a nice toy to have.
Yeah.
Now, Sam Underhill will not last long because he's Sam Underhill.
He is.
So whilst he does last, I love him.
He's playing some good. He always puts some monstrous hits.
I would just say anyone who watches Sam Underhill for any length of time, just count yourself lucky, right? Because you won't see this guy for long, and he's just he's one of my favourite players. He's just one of my favourite players.
Superb.
Absolutely smashes things.
Yeah, and he's still relatively young. I mean, all of those boys are. With Underhill, he's probably the oldest of those at 27. With Curry and Earl, maybe 25, 26.
Earl's older than that, isn't he?
I don't know if he
26.
is. 26, yeah. And Cunningham South, what is he, 21?
Yeah, he's a joke. He's ridiculously good.
Yeah. Don't know. Love that. Love the second row options. Like, maybe slightly less so Coles, although I do actually like Coles. I think he's a good player.
Coles is all right.
Itoje and Martin, I think, is superb. And then when he gets back fit, Chesham.
Martin's a real difference maker. Martin reminds me... Martin's the same impact on this team coming in as McCarthy does for Ireland.
Yeah.
He's a second row with physicality and a difference maker.
Yeah, agreed.
With big highlights.
Yeah. His defensive highlights are awesome as well. But you're back to the problem of the scrum. Same with the Keane Healy problem. If 37-year-old Dan Cole, who is England's second best tight head, which he is still England's second best tight head.
I know he's not available, but why has Collier never really been given a shot?
Don't know.
Why?
Don't know.
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you? If people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else. Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Because, he's a very, very handy player.
Yeah, did I see Finn Baxter on the field at one point?
He was on for a big point. So Marlow went off injured after 18 minutes. So Finn Baxter played 60-plus minutes.
Did I see him get absolutely marmalised in one of the scrums?
Towards the end of the game. He's a great player.
He is.
But he probably played twice as much time he was ever planning on playing.
Yeah.
And so when he was already tired, when they changed things, when Fletcher Newell came on, who's quite a big, strong boy.
Have you seen that boy squat on Instagram?
I'm not on Instagram, but
Big
Andy
squatter.
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
No, I guess it doesn't, does it? No, I guess it wouldn't.
Yeah. There was one scrum in particular where it did not go well for England after it was maybe 60, 65 minutes in.
I was watching someone do squats the other day on Instagram.
Of course.
Of course. It was I think, 85-kilogram man. A Chinese weightlifter. 180 kilograms.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very large. For 30.
For 30?
For 30.
30? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That's insane.
Isn't it?
That's just insane.
I was like, I can do that for 3. Oh, for 3. 30.
30. Wow. Fair play. And New Zealand, I don't
Damien McKenzie, on that. Damien McKenzie over Bowden Barrett.
Yeah.
Why? In your opinion?
Played more rugby this year. Bowden Barrett was in Japan.
Yep.
So played more high level rugby. And that's probably it. And he's also been superb this year. He's a quality. Every time I've watched him for the Chiefs, he's just class operator.
Yeah,
so,
I like him.
I really like him. That it didn't cost them the game, but that allowing the shot clock to elapse in what would have made it more than a penalty, would have made it a 4-point game. So it's a try situation with only, I don't know, there's 5 minutes on the clock. That is a massive mistake. That is a huge mistake to make.
And do you think the criticisms of Marcus Smith in the Times today are warranted?
So I've not read it, so I can't say on that. Presumably the criticism was around his kicking. He had 2 tough kicks from the touchline because both the from out wide, both the tries were scored out wide, and then he had 1 easier penalty that he missed. But anyone can have that day. Andre Pollard can have that day. Thomas Ramos can have that day.
Yeah, absolutely can.
So no, not really. He's generally a very good kicker, and I think for me he's England's first choice 10 and will be for the next few years. And I want to see him given an extended run in the shirt. So yeah, I not read the criticism, but I don't think there's anything to criticise there.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I think we're probably going to do another podcast tomorrow, whether you are or not. I don't know, Tim, Phil.
Yeah,
but we'll have Tim calling in.
Yes.
See how he is, see what he's been up to, see what other free gifts he's got. Go through the emails. Sorry, we do have your emails, but I guess we could talk about the court session as well on Patreon.
We could do, yeah. Although not too much about the court session, but I will say to everyone who came down, top bunch of boys. It was so much fun this weekend.
It was, wasn't it?
It was ace. So much stupid shit, and just really, really good weekend. My only complaint for the weekend is the weather was
shocking.
the Friday. So from when we arrived about 5 p.m, it took us about 5 hours to get down. We arrived at 5 p.m, and it was non-stop torrential rain from 5 p.m. We played 5 games of rugby on the Friday night. We were then drinking and partying in the rain until 2 in the morning. Got into your brother's, Beardmore & Co.'s camper van. I don't think I ever got dry on that Friday night.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I was never properly dry. And it didn't stop raining until, I think, midday on the Saturday.
I just didn't get up in the morning. I was like, fuck this.
And then when it finally stopped raining, it was then the wind. And
yeah.
It wasn't like you can have a British summer where it's windy and wet and like 25 degrees. This was not that. This was like 14 degrees.
You're always a couple of
wet.
degrees too cold,
yeah,
or a little bit uncomfortable, or a little bit wet. It just wasn't. The weather let us down big time.
Big time. But it's a beautiful part of the world. When we did finally get some sunshine with the little white clouds and the rolling hills, that was when the wind finally stopped. And when we were
trying to get some North Dorset budgie smugglers because they look very fetching on some of the boys. So I went to the shop and they didn't have any, but they did have dog coats. It's like, what kind of club does not stock budgie smugglers, but does stock dog coats?
That tells you a lot,
doesn't it?
Oh, I will say actually, it was Red Jacket Specialist Care who sponsored us.
Oh no!
Who I was talking to Brandon and his old man during the day.
So I'm pretty sure I didn't meet Brandon.
Two really nice blokes. We met. Brandon definitely played 3. I'm sure he played 3 years ago as well. I'm sure he did. But Red Jacket Specialist Care. If you have any need for that market in the southwest and even further afield, get in touch with them. But Brandon, oh my God, we think ruptured his Achilles.
That is a bad injury.
And
there's no fun way to rupture your Achilles.
No, and he was quite confident that he'd ruptured his Achilles because he did the other one a couple of years ago as well.
Oh!
So he knows how it feels. He was playing well as well. It's really, really tough day at the office, that. So fingers crossed it's not too bad and he gets well soon.
It wasn't a contact injury from what I understand.
No, it wasn't. I was watching him. He one thing, if he was not in hospital, if he could have made it to the court session, he would have been given a heavy fine for blowing a 3-man overlap outside him.
Rightly so.
he stepped to receive the ball, stepped to take a few yards forward, and then pass, and I think it was his right leg just gave way underneath him. Get well soon, mate. Get well soon.
Tell you what, I was hearing some fascinating stories last night about the Lithuania or the Estonia head coach.
From Robin.
Yeah. So the Estonia head coach has pitched up to Estonia and has started reading the riot act to the players based on his experience, which is
military.
No, he was the assistant coach to the World Cup winning team for the ladies 3 cycles ago. I can't imagine being lectured by a... well, I'm just saying that CV isn't going to hold much water with certain people at all. I know what I'm doing. Why? What have you achieved?
Oh dear.
So that was all very amusing.
It was very good fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. As the cable tied to a post.
There's some good finds, some good drinking. That did you have any of the?
It's awful, isn't it? Balsams.
Yeah,
it's a black liquor from
Latvia,
and it is one of the most horrendous drinks. So
it's like it reminds me of Fernet Branca that we have had a few times.
Yes, it is actually.
'Cause it's quite medicinal. It's quite thick, but it's not like if you have Jägermeister, which someone compared it to. That is medicinal, but it's also sweet. It's like syrupy. It's just bitter and
so my uncle has a hotel in Llandudno, and when we were part of the EU, which unfortunately we're no longer part of, we had lots of Latvian staff, and they bought loads of balsams over, and I hated the stuff. I hated it. I still hate it now. Dreadful drink.
Yeah.
We had strong zeros.
We did have George brought many strong zeros. He was self-medicating because he got injured on strong zeros, and then he went on later because he got injured on the Friday night. Started the first game on the Saturday, and could not play, couldn't run because he was screwed.
Yeah.
He then had, I think he self-medicated with 2 strong zeros and a bottle of Spark.
Oh, I do know Brendan.
You know Brendan?
Yes.
Yeah. He played before.
Yeah, I know exactly who he is now.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Good lad, good player.
He did his Achilles.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah. Yeah, George, definitely injured. Injured on the Friday night. Started the first game, but couldn't do it. So I had 2 cans of strong zero, followed by a bottle of rosé prosecco, and then got himself back on the pitch slightly later and got absolutely smashed.
Oh, did he? Good.
Did you see the...
I didn't see any rugby on the Saturday.
Well, I was going to say, did you see the Severies hit on George Furbank?
Yes.
Which Furbank, fair play to him.
Yes, it was a great hit.
It was a superb hit. It was like that kind of hit on George with a bottle of Prosecco, rosé Prosecco, and 2 strong zeros inside him. And then he really did not play again.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Oh, good. And then Dave Mack created a new game as well. You were there for that.
Was I? What?
The McDonald's bag game.
Oh, yes. Well, we'll save it for Tim.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's it. I think that's the 4 games done. There are some more games next week. I'm going to wait for Tim to call in tomorrow, and we'll preview them all.
Yeah, repeats of this week, aren't they?
Something like that.
Scotland play USA. Everything else is repeats, pretty much.
Excellent. Right, well, I am absolutely racked. I have nothing more to give.
And I'm up for a train in a few hours, so let's call it a night there.
All right, good night, everyone.
Let the boys end.
Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. Parents can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and more. Plus, keep an eye on spending with real-time notifications. Join more than 6 million parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get your first month free at greenlight.com/ACAST. That's greenlight.com/ACAST.